Good afternoon. Woo! Thank you for making it all the way down to the end of the hallway. Did you guys notice? We're at the very, very end, so you guys are dedicated to, to being here in the afternoon. But before the party, so that's a good thing. After the party is always a rough time slot. Some people have been to multiple TCs and know what I'm talking about. I am Stephanie McReynolds, and I am just here to make a brief introduction to our guest speakers. I am with a company called Alation, which you may have seen on the keynote stage yesterday. We're one of the partners that has worked with Tableau on the metadata API, which supports both the Tableau catalog as well as the Alation Data Catalog. We've been in the market selling data catalogs for about 6 years now, and have over 150 production implementations of data catalogs. So data catalogs being kind of a new thing. There are not a ton of published best practices. We're getting better at that as a group of vendors. But I am hoping that everyone in this room gets a lot out of the Daimler Trucks presentation in terms of some things to think about if you're considering a data catalog or thinking about how it might work with your implementation. Alation is an enterprise data catalog, so we extend the Tableau data catalog into sources that Tableau will not catalog on their own. So if you paid close attention to the presentation at the keynote, Tableau catalogs all Tableau objects, but if you want full lineage out to the raw data that might be stored in databases or files, you need a vendor like ourselves to be able to extend. Or if you have other users who might be using data science tools or other business intelligence tools, I know a lot of folks have mixed environments, you'd also need a vendor like ourselves. So just a little bit of background. I know it's a bit of a new space, but I am pleased to introduce two of our experts, John and Barbara, and they're going to get into many more details about how their organization has adopted the catalog and rolled it out. John has been at Daimler for over 8 years, has a ton of experience, and is probably going to talk, I imagine, a little bit more from an IT side of the house on some things to think about, maybe. But today will probably be a little bit more business user oriented. That's one of the things that's exciting about the data catalog is it makes this scary term called metadata, more relevant to the business. And Barbara has spent time at both Daimler AG and Daimler Trucks, so has a worldwide perspective on business intelligence and data cataloging. And without further ado, I will hand off to both of them, our experts.
Thank you. Thanks for coming down. Thanks. You have to wait? Okay, hello everybody. My name is Barbara, and as Stephanie mentioned, I joined Daimler in Stuttgart in Germany 5 years ago. I've worked on a couple of big data topics and connected vehicle topics. So I really feel like I experience a lot of that pain that you have to go through sometimes doing analytics projects. And then I transitioned to DTNA, so I moved to the US this April. And I took over the topic, Alation implementation, and also data governance. So this kind of ties together. And I'm excited to share that experience with you and hope that you can learn from how our implementation and our roadmap went, and you get a lot of takeovers from this session.
Good, thank you, Barbara. So I'm Jonathan Mason. I am in IT, however, I just transitioned to IT. I was in the business for most of my career at DTNA. Been there about 8 years, a lot of it in the manufacturing end, moved into a PMO, went into data governance, transitioned into IT, and the rest is history, I guess. So today we're going to tell you a story. So we're going to bring you through how the need of our culture, our data landscape, drove us to having to understand how a data catalog actually will drive our culture forward at DTNA. We're not going to do a demo. We're not going to really talk about a lot of the technical details of that. You guys need to go visit the lunar lander. They'll answer all that. They can do a demo better than we could do it justice here. But what we really want you guys to understand is how bringing value to a data catalog is kind of a difficult story to get through. And we're going to talk to you a little bit about our challenges, about some of our success stories. We'll walk you through a few of our use cases that can provide how that value actually can provide back to the business. And then we'll do about our lessons learned and kind of about how all over our data culture at DTNA has kind of risen in the last few years. So, but first, who here has actually heard of Daimler Trucks? Wow.
Whoa, everybody.
That's actually pretty amazing. So normally when we talk about Daimler, I say Daimler Trucks and nobody understands it. And I say, who here has heard of Mercedes-Benz? And everybody obviously knows who Mercedes-Benz is. So we are Daimler Trucks. So Daimler, of course, is the parent company to Mercedes-Benz. We have the Sprinter van. We have the Daimler Trucks side. We do the buses, and we have our financial side as well. So very large global company, almost 300,000 employees. We move a lot of product. We're all over. You guys kind of know with just seeing our products on the road. Daimler Trucks North America, where Barbara and I reside, we're a little bit closer to home. So we actually have the brands of Thomas Built Bus. So we probably drove you to school, or we're driving your kids to school right now. Our Freightliner trucks are the ones that bring the produce to your grocery stores that you guys eat. Our Western Star Built brand is the ones that hauls all the material for your houses or your apartments that are getting built. So our product, essentially what we say is our product moves the world. It's basically what we do. A lot of what you probably hear about in the media right now, though, is about our really fun topics that we have. At DTNA, we have a acronym that we call CASE. So CASE, so connectivity, automated, shared, and electric. Those are the fun buzzwords right now in our industry, right? So you guys have probably seen the YouTube videos about our automated trucks. We are moving our electric trucks to our customers as we speak right now. We just actually announced our dynamic leasing, right, for our shared. And of course, all of this is to kind of drive forward. This is the really, really fun, cool stuff in our industry. And you guys can imagine how much data is coming off of these trucks right now. You're talking petabytes and petabytes of data that we're playing with, we're analyzing, we're using. This is the future. This is the direction we're going. This is the stuff that we're having a lot of fun with. But in reality, our data landscape, right, is traditional in nature. You have your supply chain, you have your engineering, you have your finance, HR, everything that you have out there. That is our landscape. We're on-prem, we're in the cloud. We have several different databases, right? We're SAP HANA, we're DB2 Blue, SQL Server, you name it, we have it. We're decades of data that reside in all these areas, all these data warehouses, right? We have internal and external, and we are a Tableau house for our analytics, but you can't just have one tool, obviously. You have to have multiple, so we have Power BI, right? We have Alteryx. Of course, we have Alation, and then we have all of our legacy tools as well. So this is the actual reality of Daimler Trucks, right? Our data landscape is vast, it's wide, it's difficult, and when you're trying to find data, it can actually be a problem.
That's what John was calling fun, and I call it the pain, right, in the beginning. So, because when you have to actually deal with this, we have decades of legacy, we have all these different systems, and when you get a project from the business will ask you a business question, like how many trucks did I sell, or when do my parts arrive, and then you as an analyst, you are like, okay, how do I answer that? Nobody gives me the databases where I have to look this up, right? So you will start talking to people, they will give you they know about the set of the data, but what about the rest of the five other attributes that they don't know about? So I have to go talk to another person which sits in another department. So you really have to deal with these silos, and you're really find yourself helpless, especially if you're a new person or you don't have that 10 years experience and know all how this history has built up. So it can be a real challenge, and what we have experienced, unfortunately, a lot of times discovering issues on the go will lead to like frustrated analysts, but also delayed projects and then eventually not that happy customers. And so really we felt that this needs a solution and there has to be some better way to do this. And that's how I think that journey started.
Yeah. So our journey with our data catalog actually started probably about 6, maybe even 7 years ago. There was a small group of individuals, they were kind of our power users at that point in time. They put together a great proposal that they were going to bring in front of our then CIO. It was a great PowerPoint. It had a little truck at the bottom that was animated that went through. This was all like high-tech stuff back then. So, and they wanted to go have a great conversation about metadata and about data catalog and about data stewards. And our CIO at the time, he was like, "What are you guys talking about?" Right? These were terms that we really didn't quite know or understand at that point in time. So nothing really came of it. It was a great opportunity, but nothing really came of it. So in the years to come, we had this amazing grassroots effort at DTNA that really started to build our data culture. I call it grassroots effort. Some other people might call it shadow IT, right? Other people call it self-service. You guys kind of understand what we're talking about. But it really kind of drove where we wanted to go. And this is at the same time that our Tableau community really started to develop as well. And we built kind of this aura around what we wanted to do with data. And it moved in from our finance department, it moved into our aftermarket department, to our operations, and every little area started building up these communities of really data-centric type people. And we started to understand that there is power behind data. So now moved to about 2 years ago, and after talking with a lot of people out there, I actually went into our CIO's office now, and same CIO that we had 7 years ago. And I said to him, I'm like, we got to really embrace this. You have to start to understand. I said, the needs of the business were starting to outpace the tools we were providing them, right? That's a key note in what we were trying to do. And he looked at me and he goes, Jason. He's a German CIO. They always call me Jason. Combine my first name and my last name and call me Jason. It's happened multiple times. So he goes, Jason, he goes, we need to develop a champions network. And so I was like, well, all right, let's do it. So we started going to each leaders of our different domains that we had. And we had them nominate somebody that we could put together a team that we then called the Data Council. And this Data Council was made up of your power users, your individuals that understand what we're talking about when you start using terms that a lot of people didn't quite know. And we met a few times, and we started having good sessions, and we started kind of looking forward of what we could do to elevate our company and come together. And we always ran into the same type of roadblocks. It was always about governance. And I'm not talking about governance about constricting, right? We're a German-run company. We're as constricting as you can be, really. It's about enablement. So when we talk about data governance at DTNA, we're talking about enabling the data usage that we can do. And then we started looking even further. We're like, you know what? We actually, if we had a data catalog, we could catapult ourselves moving forward. If we could find the data, if we were able to actually acquire what we needed quickly, that is what I think we could do moving forward. So we actually ended up running through a POC, and at the end of that POC, which I'll talk about here in a little bit, is we brought in Alation.
Okay, I think we have talked enough about this data catalog. You might wonder how it looks like. So this is a screenshot from our Alation instance, and it shows how we catalog our Tableau server. Really, what you can do as an analyst, you can go there and see everything that is on the Tableau server, but remember, this is metadata. This is not the actual same workbooks that on the Tableau server in terms of you cannot see the details if you don't have access to the dashboard. You will see a little kind of thumbnail about it. And what we use this for is, first of all, you can see everything, even the things that you might not have access to, as I already said. Then also you can add a bunch of additional information. You can add how did you develop the SQL behind it, what does this calculation mean, add additional documentation, you can give information about how to access it, all that kind of stuff. What we also do is we incorporate our data governance guidelines, what we call. So really, if there is some sensitive data in that data set, or you have to apply some caution, for example, the new CCPA law is coming up, then how to deal with personal related data, those kind of things. And also what you see in the kind of, more like on the right side, there's a traffic lights. So there is a kind of crowdsourcing quality aspect to it. You can endorse or deprecate the workbook, but also the data source behind it, and that gets inherited from the source through the Tableau catalog in Alation onto the Tableau server. So really, you can get a better clue about the data quality, because a lot of times as a business user, you don't really know what happened back there in the database, right? Like when did it get refreshed, or those kind of things can be made transparent. So really, this is just a little tiny snapshot. If you want more deep dive demo, of course, see the Alation folks in the data village, I guess it's called. Yeah. So this is just like to give you an idea on how we use it and how it provides value to our analysts.
So the question that we have always that we get is, why do we choose Alation, right? So we even had data catalogs in-house with the other tools that we had there that we could have turned on and just used. Part of the data council, when we were going through our pilots and our POCs, we wanted to have, not only the IT perspective, but obviously the business perspective, right? We went out to our community and we actually walked them through this pilot. And a lot of the feedback came back to a lot of the same things. So a lot of the other tools felt like an IT tool. It felt very structured and technical in nature, and maybe it can do the job. But Alation brings that community aspect where you can literally write articles and have conversations and grow this data community with everybody within the tool itself. It's the super ease of use, and using natural language. Obviously, integration with Tableau and our other BI tools was a key. To be able to just do a simple search and be able to find any Tableau dashboard you want to find. It increases our productivity, right? It reduces the amount of time it takes to find data. You can use it autonomously. You don't have to have somebody walking you through the tool. It's super easy. As Barbara touched on, you have a crowdsourcing concept of how you can get, understand the quality and how validate the different queries that are out there. And putting my IT hat back on, we didn't have to include or do any additional access management. It works completely with all of our current access management. So if you have access to that data, you can see that in Alation. If you don't have access to that data, it doesn't let you see it, but it provides you a link to how to go and get access. So it just was one of those situations where as we walked through, it just seemed to be the community aspect, it seemed to be easy, and that's kind of why we wanted to choose that moving forward. So. All right, so now I'm going to walk you through. I'm going to kind of ground us here a little bit. We're talking a lot, really high level, great stuff. I want us to ground where we're going to walk you through a typical, analysis process, right? So this is now, take Alation out of the picture. This is your basic day-to-day, no data catalog. This is kind of the process that we went through. Everything starts with the business question, right? So a business user has a question. They want to be able to answer this question. If you don't have access to that data, or you don't have that data readily available, you have to search and find somebody that does. This is normally your data steward, right? So you have to try and find somebody that has that. And it's usually somebody you know, or somebody you know that knows somebody that knows somebody that has it, right? Now you find it, you have the data. Now you gotta get a hold of that data engineer. I gotta have you model this data for me. So that process alone, we know can take time. While that's happening, you have to understand, okay, what's this data classified as? If I combine it with this other data, am I going to still have the right classification? So you have to go to your privacy officer, right? You have to make sure you can use the data in the realm that you want to. You have to go to the information owner, understand more about that data, right? So again, adding more processes to this, more steps to this. Once you have that approval, once your data engineer finally done modeling, now you got to visualize it, right? So you go to your analyst, you go to your scientist. I have to visualize this data. So you give them everything you want so that they can actually, have it so that you can answer the question visually, right? Now you have that, and you have that clear process. The visualization is created, and then you can actually give it back to that user, and you can answer that question. I think everybody in this room probably has gone through this process before and knows that this process can take days, it can take weeks. At DTNA, it could take months in order to make that happen, right? So we're going to walk you through some of our use cases now with Alation. So now we're going to say this is what it's like without Alation. The use cases that we're going to walk you through now are kind of this same process, but how it's done with Alation and some of those success stories.
I think this is super powerful because now you're actually able to do this process on your own. Even if you don't know anybody who you have to collaborate with, you kind of are able to do much of this on your own. So as a project manager, of course, I like to measure the value, right? Like what is the value that my tool creates in our business? So we went out with John and interviewed some of our users, and actually a lot of them are here in the room. So I think three or four people who you will see the use case are sitting here in the front row. So the first use case I would like to present to you is from Ninad, and he's a data analyst. I work pretty closely with him, and he got the task from the CFO of our Thomas Built Buses business to analyze the market conditions and the buying patterns coming up. Now, how does Ninad start? Ninad went into Alation, and much similar to what you see the gallery of Tableau public out there, he just went and browsed through our existing dashboards on the Tableau server to get inspired, because how I think it was mentioned in the keynote last morning, there we have this problem of, we don't reuse, we kind of reinvent the wheel, and a lot of things get developed simultaneously. So Nina chooses first see what's out there so he can maybe use it. And he was able to find a really cool dashboard that he really liked, and he decided to just adopt it a little bit and use that to visualize actually the data that he's been asked for. In this way, he was able to provide a much better looking, cooler looking dashboard, but also he was able to do this in a much shorter time frame. And obviously this is something that everybody likes. Business was happy, Ninad was happy because he was done earlier. So I think this was a great example, and also what he's proud of is that he provided that dashboard now back and documented it in Alation, so that now others can again improve it and make it even better.
Yeah, again, it's reuse, it's build that community. So, Dawn Reinhardt, she is a sales and marketing manager for us at DTNA. When we went out and asked her if she would share her story with us, she's like, yeah, Alation made me look like a rock star. Now this is, again, we're all data people here. Usually data doesn't quite make you look like a rock star, but that's what she came back with. So she was asked to provide usage on a very large set of parts and understand from those parts what projects they should be going after in the future. Dawn wasn't an early adopter of Alation for us. She had played in it a little bit, but she hadn't really, really dove into it and really took it what it was. So she started the process the old-fashioned way. So she called up one of our data stewards on the phone, and she's like, I need this data. Do you know where I can find it? And our data steward, who was in Alation and was adopting it, said, yes, let's look in Alation. And within the first 2 or 3 minutes, she was able to find a query that pretty much exactly matched what she needed for her answer on her business question. She then took that query, was able to develop an Alteryx app in literally less than 2 hours and present that back to her business customer and answer that person's question. So picture that, having coffee in the morning with somebody that asks you to solve a question or solve a problem for them. Before that person can even have lunch, you've delivered an application that answers their question. 99% time savings. That's what she said. That's not what we have. That's her quotes on there. So how much it was, we don't know. But again, going through that process, you could understand how that could have been weeks of time for her to have to find that in order to get that. one simple search using the Alation tool was able to have her find the query she needed, get her the data so that she could actually move forward and answer that question. So, so she was happy. She looked like a rock star. She's now a full-blown user of Alation for us. Obviously that convinced her that's something she needs to do more with. So, so she's definitely involved in that and moving forward.
That's pretty awesome. So the next one is more like a data engineer use case. So this one is from Sajin. He's our lead big data engineer, and he had the challenge to find the right data set for his recommender engine. So the use case was about recommending the best truck for our customers. Imagine when you're buying a new car, let's say, or in our case, a new truck. You kind of know what you're looking for. You already bought a truck from us. Like, why do you have to go and configure it from scratch, right? You expect us to know that and know what you need and recommend you that one. So this was kind of the scenario about. And what Sajjan would have done without Alation, he would have just made an assumption and used a data set that he already knows. Okay, but I think he thought, let's try it, why not, ask people in Alation, and he just posed this question, like, does anybody know a good data set to solve this problem? And what was really amazing, and I really absolutely love this conversation in Alation, like within, I think, half hour, somebody answered, and within 4 hours, like 4 or 5 experts answered. They recommended him queries and they recommended him data sets, which he was able to use and actually achieve a much better predictive model with that new data set. So I think this really shows that collaboration, like how if you can break down those silos and have access to that knowledge of people, like others in the organization, you can be much more successful.
That's exactly right. So the use cases you've heard about have been very much one-on-one type use cases. This one here is more broad in spectrum. So the brands that I showed you, right, Thomas Built Bus, Detroit, Freightliner, Western Star, Freightliner Custom Chassis, and our Alliance Truck Parts. So those are just our brands. As you can imagine, we have multiple manufacturing facilities across all of North America. In each one of those facilities, we are connected on the back end. Yes, all of our systems do talk and everything, but the analytics side of things, a lot of times those are on SQL servers hiding underneath somebody's desk, right? So all of that, right, is brought together, and you have, in those individual plants, they're doing analytics. And if you wanted to share those analytics across to other plants, it's very difficult to do. You have to, put it into an Excel file. If it's too big, you got to Dropbox it to somebody. If you can email it, you do that, and then you get this raw data set that you're trying to understand and analyze. Not really the best way to go. We did a trip out to most of our plants back in June. And we started talking to some of their data stewards, and we started asking them questions. And what we essentially realized is that they were doing a lot of analysis independently, but they wanted to combine and work together, right? We're in the era of IoT and connected plants and connected factories, and here we are still, have separate SQL servers for a lot of our analysts that we're trying to do. So we actually got some champions from a lot of our plants, and we actually took their SQL servers and ingested those into Alation. They are now able to search and find and understand the different analytics that each plant was doing and have those conversations on Alation. So we went from an independent, network of factories to this combined, joined effort and connected plants that they can move forward with and have conversations and see the data and analyze the data, bring everybody together, looking at how we can increase quality, looking at efficiency, right? We're a lean manufacturing company, and now we can share across all of our stories and have these conversations in Alation. So it's not just those individual stories. This is how, again, we go back to building a culture, building a community, and how Alation actually can bring that forth for us. It's been a pretty good road so far. So again, not only just one-on-ones, but a lot overall community.
To sum this all up, so these were just a few examples, and what's really great about it is that now we don't have to ask for these testimonials, they automatically come to me, so like I just get email like, oh, I was able to do this great dashboard with the help of Alation, so I think it's really I mean, makes my job much nicer. But just to sum it up, so we had just our 1-year anniversary with Alation, so that was in October. And what we have seen through the first year is that it really helps embrace this self-service, because now you are able to find so before that, if you don't know about that data set, you can't use it, but now you're able to discover it. And so it really helps us use more data and become more data-centric, and in that cultural shift. Also, it increases our productivity and helps us save time, deliver more use cases, obviously, in the same time. And then also really embraces that reuse and sharing of knowledge. So for example, the data steward, so whoever is expert or subject matter expert of that data set, they get a lot of calls and emails all the time, and they get a little bit annoyed, honestly, that they have to answer that same question over and over again. But now in the tool, it kind of stays there. So once you ask and they answer, it just stays there. So the next person can look through that. So that is seems like a little thing, but I think also improves that reuse of knowledge and kind of building on what's already existing out there.
Yeah, it seems like a little thing until you understand from the data steward side, right? How many calls you get and emails.
We have all those things buried in people's emails, and that's just not the 21st century anymore.
So 1 year of Alation. Our adoption and expansion is kind of a story in itself. As Barbara said, we did a launch back in October, but it was a soft launch. So we didn't want to open this up to everybody at the start. And the reason behind that is we wanted to ensure that everything that we had, there was quality behind it. We recruited 3 data stewards to kind of be our test pilots for us. And in October, when we did the soft launch, we didn't open it up to everybody. We actually restricted it to most of our community. And we took these 3 data stewards and we had them describe 6 sources of data for us. These were our analytic platforms, right? These are our BI platforms. We ingested those into Alation, and we had these data stewards describe that data for us. So now we had 100%, give or take, 100% of our data in Alation was described. So before we even moved forward, we wanted to then understand the role of the data steward. That's probably the most important role in the data catalog. If you don't describe your data, you're not going to be able to find it. And the data steward is the one that's going to describe it. So the technical information, the metadata, that'll get pulled in, right? The business rules behind it, that's what's also very important. So if you have both of those together, if your data steward can describe the business rules and the business description, you have your technical descriptions already ingested. Now you have a full kind of placid of what you're looking at. So we built out a data steward training. So anybody that wanted to be a data steward had to go through our training. They also had to go through and understand the responsibilities of a data steward and the amount of time that is committed to that, and make sure that they understand what that is going to be on their day-to-day business. We then launched in February 2019. We did a huge marketing event. You know, we had a good community event. We really built up everything that we wanted. We gave out raffles, you know, go into Alation, you know, sign up and you get a raffle and you can get like a Visa card. I'm not sure what we did. We did pizza parties, all that good stuff. And our usage, as you can see, our usage just skyrocketed. The next month, same thing, right? We grew even larger. And then April hit and we lost half of our community. And that's the important thing to know, right? So we sat back and we kind of then realized, and like I said before, your data that's in Alation is only good as what's described. And if you have all these individuals go into your data catalog and they don't see what they want, or they don't see anything that gives them value, they may not come back, right? So what we did then with our growth plan is we went out and we started identifying the different sources that could provide the most value back to our company. So where could we go that people were really like eager to have their data brought into Alation, had a data steward that was willing to do that role, and that it actually provided value back to the company, right? So all those use cases we had, those are value. That's all value, how it brings back to the company. So we started along that path, right? And so here we are a year later, and we have now 20 sources ingested into Alation. We have almost 1,500 Tableau workbooks that are identifiable in our tool. We've had over 200 queries written in the tool. People are composing and publishing in the tool itself. The community, the articles that have been built up to the point where every month you guys can see our data catalog is becoming more and more valuable. And that's the key. At the start, it's kind of like a white wall. And you have to go in there and you have to paint that wall and make it what it is. And that's what we've done over the course of the last year.
So really what helped us be successful on this is to rely on that community and start building that community with our users, also with our data stewards, because they are kind of our power users. They are really expert of the tool. And then also that we partner with other communities. So because we are new and small in the beginning, we can leverage the Tableau community, which is very mature and big at DTNA already. And also we kind of target, like we think about who is our target audience. So the Tableau community is one of them, the data science community is another one, and then we have the database administrators. So really we did all that research of who are the people who are working with data and who are the people that we have to start targeting and go into individual conversations with. The second one is that the chart that you just seen in the previous slide, it is our Alation Analytics, which is a kind of internal database that helps me analyze usage. So the project team or the server team can look like how many people are using it, which parts of the tool are they using, who's writing queries, who's writing articles. We added some HR information, so now I can see which departments are using, which teams are using. So I really can see where do I have to invest more marketing effort, or what are the parts that people really like, or which are the ones that they don't like, and then I can dig into it, like ask them why. And so this really just helps you, gives you some additional information of how you can grow. And then finally, what we have recognized is to keep up with the training material internally is really hard. So we partner with Alation. They have e-learning platform called Alation University, and I just rely on that training from them. It's really nice because it gives certificates, so people like it, and it's hard to do internally, right? And then I will just add our specific customization, so that's all that I have to care about and keep maintaining and everything in the product, because they have sometimes 4 or 5 releases per year. I don't have to care about keeping the product related training up to date. And then where I think that we can still grow or have to invest more in the coming years is we have to activate more data stewards, so like really have that give and take, not just the analysts who want to consume the information, but also the people who now learned about the data or know about the data, give it back and document it back. There is a lot of knowledge retention in there, so when you talk about people retiring and things like that, they can provide that knowledge so that it stays with the organization. And also, other things that we can do to increase that value and have some more of those success stories that we shared.
Good. So our data culture at DTNA is continuing to grow. Where we've come from just less than a decade to where we're at now, we really have a lot of good ideas that are coming to fruition. Our user community is continuing to grow. We have our data days, we have digital inspiration days. We decided to do our Alation Awards when we had our 1-year anniversary, and we gave out some cool awards to our top users in Alation. All of this is just going to continue to go up and up. Like, this is just kind of the beginning. Like, we're a year into this, and the catalog is only just really kind of driving us forward. We're not where we want to be. This is not an easy ship to turn, I guess, right? Where you guys can see how large of a company we are. But the little things that we're accomplishing now that we were not able to accomplish 6, 7 years ago is driving our community in this direction. We're also expanding globally. So as a global company, our passenger car side is now using Alation. We are partnering with them to really understand how we can share not only our data community, but how we can actually even share our metadata across our entire global company. Barbara and I are the lead to roll out Alation instance at our Trucks Fuso, so in Tokyo. We're leading that in 2020. We already have boots on the ground right now in Stuttgart, Germany, where we're rolling out Alation at our trucks and bus location there. So we are kind of rolling out this across all of DTNA, and it's all based on the benchmark that we have here. It's really been a great story. At some point, we're really hopeful to be able to have this opened up across our entire company. So it doesn't matter where you're at anywhere in Daimler, you'll be able to use and borrow and analyze data across our entire company globally. That is the vision, that's where we want to be. And again, we're a year into this and it's already having that much of an impact for us.
All right, so key takeaways, what do we want to give you guys? There are only a few points. So first one that I want you to remember is that community aspect, so partner with the community. If you ever embark on this journey that we did, it's really important that you know who are the users and leverage those existing communities in your company. Second of all, you should partner with Alation. So we work with the vendor very closely. We have this mutually challenging each other, so they really help us in the rollout. They give us like a roadmap of, because we have never done this before in our company, so we are looking at them always to give us like, okay, what are the best practices or what are tricks that we can do, and so that's really helpful. And also from our side, when I talk to our data community and they have some requests, then we work really closely with Alation to implement those features. And then I think the final one that is super, super important is to partner with the business, because data catalog cannot be an IT, it's not an IT project. It cannot be just IT driven, it cannot be top down, it has to be a partnership, because business knows how to interpret the data and IT knows maybe how the data was created. And of course, business likes to look at IT like, oh, you guys just give it to us, like you just figure it out and we will consume it. This is not how it works. So really, you have to engage them and have that kind of collaboration, have both sides of the coin. And so I think these are the super important 3 aspects. And then finally, I would just suggest you to first start small and get those early feedbacks and then iterate and then go into the scaling, so that it's important to have those flagship first success, and then you can sell it to the people who are maybe a little bit more skeptical in the beginning.
Definitely. All right, so that's our journey. We appreciate you guys late on a Thursday afternoon here, having this topic. It can be very deep in what we're going into. We do want to open up to any questions, some Q&A that you guys have. Again, go visit the Lunar Lander. Those guys are great down there. They'll be able to answer a lot of questions for you as well. But we've enjoyed this our story, so we appreciate you guys, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.